Welcome to my take on ranking the top 10 coasters in Spain. I want to start with a disclaimer saying that I've not ridden every single coaster in Spain, but most of them that I have ridden, I don't believe any of the others would actually make this list anyway. Montaña Rusa at Tibidabo, I don't believe that is a coaster that would make this list anyway. Second disclaimer, these are my opinions, I'm not saying they're fact. In fact, a lot of my opinions are seen as controversial, especially involving a certain white and gold hypercoaster in the UK. This is my second video. Please hit the subscribe button because I have got way more videos planned for the future. We're going to be reviewing parks, reviewing specific coasters, loads of videos, plus vlogs as well that I've got planned, especially next month going to the opening of Helios at Fantasiana. So please hit that subscribe button and let's jump straight into ranking the best coasters in Spain. I can already hear the comments come in saying, Topspin is not a roller coaster, why is it in this video? It had to be mentioned. You can't talk about the best rides in Spain without mentioning Topspin at Parque de Atractions de Madrid. By far the greatest topspin that I've ever ridden. The sequence, it takes you upside down on like a full rotation 3 or 4 times. It is absolutely fantastic. And if I was to do a top 10 rides in Spain, this would genuinely be in the top 5. It'd be, yeah, probably 4th I think. 4th is probably fair for it. Absolutely fantastic and definitely worth a mention in this list. And here we are, straight into the controversial opinions. The second honourable mention has to go to a ride that I'm probably going to get slated for not included in my top 10, and that's Dragon Khan at Portaventura World. Dragon Khan, well, for its time, I can imagine it was extremely revolutionary. It opened in 1994 with the park, and you know, 7 inversions, massive layout. It was fantastic for its time period. Unfortunately, it's aged to the point where even I, who doesn't particularly have an issue with rough rides, believes it's too rough. The highlight of this ride though, and what keeps it up for me, is that 0G roll you'll see on the screen just then. Absolutely incredible element. So whippy, so fast, and I can't even think of another element other than the Blue Fire Mega Coaster roll that actually compares to that 0G roll. Very, very strong. Now, this ride does have a little bit of a cult following, I guess you could say. A lot of people really, really like this ride. Unfortunately, I don't, and so for me, it's not in the top 10. But I didn't feel I could make this video without mentioning Dragon Khan at least, because it definitely is a world-class ride still. It's just not as good as a top 10 that I'm going to get to in just a second. And so we're finally into the top 10 of this list now, and we're starting with Parque Warner Madrid's inverted boomerang stuntfall, which is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I mean, how can you design a ride like this that involves a section, especially if you're in the front row, of dangling on a restraint facing into the ground 177 feet in the air? Absolutely mental. Now, the rest of the layout, it's a bit hit or miss, you know, it's one cobra roll and one loop done forwards and then done backwards. I'm not going to say the layout is revolutionary because it's not. In fact, the layout itself is pretty meh. It's more the spikes that add to this experience. The first spike when you're dangling down backwards, terrifying. But also when you come back to that spike at the end, catching onto it and slamming into your restraint is just as terrifying. I decided to get a few other people to give me a couple of opinions on this ride. When I asked, I got, well, quite some similar responses, you could say. The first response I got was, it's a cool experience, just a mildly traumatic one, which is a very, very fair summary of the ride of Stuntfall. It is traumatic. Rob, he said, I damn near almost cried on that thing. Once again, completely agree with it. However, there is also some people that don't speak of it as high. For example, at Stegs Coasters on Instagram, which by the way, you should go give him a follow, he posts some great content as well. His review of Stuntfall was good and intense, but I still found it jolty with bulky restraints. I don't fully understand the hype. The restraints do suck, and it is jolty, so that is completely fair. But overall, Stuntfall, terrifying experience, and that's actually why it's so low. It's too scary. Stampeder being above Stuntfall may very well be deemed controversial by a lot of people. However, this is a very fun dueling wooden coaster. Built by CCI, it features some solid airtime and incredible, really good dueling interactions. But I am going to start with a few negatives first. The main one being the trains. Now, Comeback replaced the trains that originally ran on this ride that were built by PTC. The trains are not brilliant. They've got these metal bars on the side that kind of dig into your ribs a little bit. It's not perfect by any stretch. It's really not as bad as most people say. I know a lot of people seem to really hate this ride. I don't think it's that bad, but it's definitely not good either from like a rideability point of view. However, it's still definitely worth going on, and it is in this top 10 rightfully. You know, the airtime, the dueling makes for a really fun ride. There is a couple of dead spots, massive dead spots in fact. There is one point where it almost just goes at about 10 miles an hour, it feels like. But apart from that, this ride, it's got a couple of double downs, some really good airtime moments, the tunnel work's really cool, the dueling's really cool, and overall, I am a big lover of Stampeder. An opinion I took from Sam was way overhated, not smooth but not rough either. The interactions with the train are good, even the dueling could be a little bit better, and the ops are awful, but overall very fun. And I completely agree with this because the ops do absolutely suck. But please do not let the hate put you off this. It is an awesome coaster. Sticking with rides that absolutely do terrify the hell out of you, we have the Mauer Skyloop Abismo. Now, Abismo is another ride that is absolutely crazy. It's the only Mauer Skyloop built to the XT450 layout, which to most people means probably not a lot. In fact, it meant nothing to me until I did a little bit of research to give you a couple of facts about the ride during the video. What that is it's just the entire layout that this ride follows, including obviously the Skyloop into the airtime hill, the cutback. Overall, this ride does provide a really good experience. Climbing that vertical lift into that hang, into that inversion is a fantastic feeling. The reason it is not higher is because these are the worst restraints I've ever felt. Like, ever. They go across your entire stomach and your rib, and it's just painful. Luckily, I'm pretty good at looking past rough rides, so I can definitely enjoy Abismo, but I can understand why some people would arguably put it lower than I have in a Spanish coasters ranking, and that is completely fair enough. But honestly, this ride's awesome, and the airtime hill really does hit. Sam said, when I asked him, somewhat terrifying with its beyond vertical lift making me hope I never get stuck on it, but while the small Skyloops are dull glorified pirate ships, the extra drop and airtime hill on this really made a difference. A lot of fun and something unusual to give the park a standout coaster. Honestly, a very fair take on this ride, but yeah, completely awesome, get on it. Staying at Parque de Attractions de Madrid, we have their other Mauer coaster, Tarantula. Now, I've really enjoyed the other Mauer spinners I've done. However, I've always wished they were just a little bit longer. Tarantula does seem to do that really well. You know, it's got very tall layout, very long layout for a spinning coaster. And overall, it's really fun, especially if you're on it with a couple of friends and you're having a great laugh. I would honestly go as far as saying Tarantula is probably my favourite standard spinning coaster, and I say standard to not include Ride to Happiness in that, because obviously Ride to Happiness is going to win. It's one of the best coasters I've ever ridden. But Tarantula really does provide a great spinning coaster experience without actually inverting. And obviously it's got a very low height limit. It's a good ride for the family. It's honestly a really good ride and very underrated. I mean, I'm putting it as the highest at Park D attractions, other than the top spin, but I can't include that. And so to finish talking about Tarantula, other than that fantastic brake run that is very slammy, I've got a couple of opinions. Fabian said, much more fun than most Mauer spinners, something about the layout hits just right, the large drop definitely helps. And Sam said, I'm not a huge fan of Mauer spinners in general, Tarantula was good but nothing amazing. Like I said, this list is ranked off my opinion and my opinion alone. So, you know, some people won't agree with me, but Tarantula for me is a very solid ride. When I say now is when the bar steps up massively, I mean it. We're now going from decent rides to top class, possibly even world class rides. Shadows of Arkham is a Bolliger and Mabillard inverted coaster at Parque Warner Madrid. And I went into this ride with extremely low expectations because I thought to myself, it's just a Batman the Ride clone. Now, I don't know why I said this because I've never done any of the Batman the Ride clones, so it's a completely new experience for me, and it was amazing. So intense, and exactly what a B&M inverted coaster should be. People seem to overlook it because it's a clone, but you know, a lot of rides, they get cloned because they're good, unless you're Vekoma and you're cloning the SLC 42 times. But there is 12 clones of this ride in total, and you know, that is fair. This ride is absolutely fantastic, really intense and whippy. And the queue. People don't talk about the queue. The queue is fantastic, really well done, and you know, you have to give them a shout out for that because they could have just done the basic queue, many of the other Batman the Ride clones located in the Six Flags parks, so I'm glad that they went the extra mile because it just gives this ride a fantastic experience. It needs to stop being overlooked. Please. Same park, same manufacturer, same opening year. I mean, same day, technically. They opened together at the start of Parque Warner, or whatever it was called. I think it was called Six Flags something at the time. Anyway, Superman L'Attraction de Acero, and I might have pronounced that wrong, I'm so sorry if I have. It's fantastic. It was my first ever Flawless, and I was really looking forward to getting on it, because I was like, you know, this is going to be quite a cool experience. I've been looking forward to doing a B&M Flawless coaster. It did not disappoint. Superman, which is what I'm going to refer to for this entire section, because I don't want to speak in the full Spanish name. I managed to get 2 rides on this in November when I went to Parque Warner for the first time. The first ride I got was on the back row in the day. It was amazing. I was already such a big fan. But what really sealed it was my second ride, which was a night ride on the front row. Absolutely brilliant. Now, it has a max height of 164 feet and a top speed of 62 miles an hour, which do seem to get overlooked because once again, similar to Dragon Khan, it has 7 inversions. Now, this ride is what Dragon Khan, in my opinion, should have been. This is a lot smoother, the layout is a lot better, and it features some fantastic airtime moments, which was a big shock. Now, I know a lot of people compare the drop on this to other B&M floorless coasters, and that's because this has a straight drop, and not all of them do, but apparently this drop is one of the better ones, so I'm glad that this is the one that I got to experience. Going through the layout, you know, and it's perfect timing as the POV's just started, you've got that first drop into a loop. After the loop, you've got an Immelman, and then a 0G roll, a Cobra roll, and then 2 interlocking corkscrews. This layout is fantastic. It is absolutely amazing. You know, you're going through this ride, and the inversions are snappy, and it's just quick. It is a really, really good ride. A lot of people don't talk about it, and it gets compared a lot, and I mean quite a lot as well, weirdly, obviously to Dragon Khan. Most people will say Dragon Khan's better, but I found every single element on Superman hit better than Dragon Khan did. The only thing I will say is the front row on this has got the capability of being a little bit rattly, similar to Dragon Khan. However, the layout is just so good that I can look past it and really appreciate how good this ride is. Yes, Furious Baco is in 4th for me. No, I'm not changing my mind. I love this ride. Furious Baco is really, really fun. You know, the launch could be better. However, it's got some really good forces and a good ride that is very quick going through valleys, and it's very, very, very fun. Yes, it's rough, and your neck feels like you're being shaken in a cardboard box being thrown down the steepest hill you could possibly imagine. But it's really, really quite good. There's not a lot to talk about. It's a very short layout featuring about 4 turns, an inversion. That is pretty much it. I'm not denying this layout is incredibly short. However, do not knock it. It's a great ride. Due to its short layout though, it is one of the only rides in this top 6 that I'm not going to be doing a separate video reviewing. As you can tell, I'm keeping these reviews kind of short so that I have something to talk about in those videos, and I'm going to do it with the others, including Shadows of Arkham, but Baco will not get its own video because it's a little bit too short. Since I'm not doing a video separately though, I am going to treat you to a wonderful video of my neck getting obliterated by this ride when I went in November. Here we are in the top 3, and once again it's a very, very fast launch coaster by Intamin. This one though, far superior. In fact, we've jumped quite a lot in the quality. Red Force's main feature is the absolutely enormous, and I mean enormous, 367 foot top hat. It is crazy. You know, hitting 120 miles an hour and climbing that absolutely huge element is fantastic. It gives a feeling that I've never had on any other ride before, and especially having just the lap bars is what really separates this from Stealth. You know, Stealth is a fantastic ride, and while I would prefer the launch on Stealth for its acceleration, I definitely prefer the feeling of going 120 miles an hour on Red Force. Overall, you know, Red Force has not a lot to say. It's a very short ride, but it does provide a very good thrill. And also, and I'm going to cut to a little video of this, has the best launch sound of any ride ever. Doesn't that launch just sound absolutely fantastic? Because I cannot think of a ride with a better launch sound, and that includes Taron. I know a lot of people say Taron has the best launch sound ever. I really do prefer Red Force. And you know, this ride, when I went to ride it, it was one of the most expensive rides I've ever done, because we had to take an €130 bullet train to make sure we made it in time after we found out Red Force was not going to open in the week. It was worth every bit of it, even though it was only night rides, and I can't wait to get back on it for some daytime rides. This ride is fantastic, and definitely worthy of being third in this list. Shambhala, or as I like to call it, Canobie, definitely deserves to be second. And if the second half of this ride was just a bit better, this would definitely be first. However, if you want to hear how I'd improve the second half, you've got to wait until my next video reviewing Shambhala, which should be out within a couple of weeks. I'm going to tell you exactly how I think Shambhala could be better in that video. Now, if you get on the front of this ride, or to be fair, the back as well is just as good, but definitely the front is better. It's not really close either, actually, so I might take back the or back. The middle rows, you may feel a little bit disappointed with Shambhala. You may think this wasn't as great as you expected, but if you do get the front row and the view and the feeling of the speed, you will fully understand why me and so many other enthusiasts have Shambhala so high. You know, this ride is absolutely incredible. Amazing, in fact. I would genuinely put this above any other hypercoaster that I've ever done. And it's exactly what I wish that Thorpe Park would have gone and got instead of the absolutely pointless ride they got in Hyperia. Shambhala is everything Hyperia wishes it could be. And I'm not going to carry on with that because it's time to leave Hyperia alone. But you know, I've been on some really good hypercoasters, from the big one to Silver Star to Hyperion especially. I know, Rob, I'm sorry for putting this above Hyperion. I know you love Hyperion with your entire heart. This ride is just incredible. You know, it's fantastic. Every bit. The floater airtime, there's a little bit of ejector. There is a bit of a dead spot on the figure of 8. However, I really do enjoy the figure of 8. It looks very good, and it is still very fun. And my god, the floater hill you're about to see here is absolutely fantastic. It's incredible. But not the best airtime on this list. Number 1, Gotham City Escape at Parquet Warner. I want to start this bit off by saying thank you if you're still here and have watched all 23 minutes so far of me sat here blabbering on about different rides, possibly including some useless facts. It deserves to be one. There's no denial, this deserves to be number 1 on the list. Intamin really, really, well, you know, they built the perfect ride you can think of. It's really well themed. I'm going to say that as well. The theming, really well done, other than the pre-show. The pre-show is awful. In fact, it might just be the worst pre-show that I've ever done in my life. And I have done Fengju Palace at Phantasialand. I was going to say Phantasiana. Phantasialand. It's brilliant. You know, every element of this ride hits. The launches hit. It's perfect. There's hang time. There's fantastic airtime. There's a hill that I've had people describe as sends you to the moon from the airtime. You know, it's brilliant. How they fit this in, so it's quite a small area as well. It's not a big area that GCE takes up. And it's very visible from the entrance plaza. As you're walking down that first walkway, you can see the top hat, which is 150 feet nearly, which shocked me when I was doing the research. I did not think it was that tall. It's brilliant. There is some trims on the top of top hat, but they actually add to the experience. But the main bit of this ride that stands out to me is the Zero G stall, or I mean, it deserves its own name, this stall does. It is brilliant. Talk about hang time, this element provides it all. Now, I have rushed over this because I have a whole separate review on GCE planned, so make sure you check that out, because that is going to go into way more detail. But just look at that element, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you to everyone that has stayed long enough to get to this point of the video. This has been one of the longest videos I've ever made on this channel or other channels that I've done in the past as well. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you don't disagree completely with my takes, and I'll see you guys in the next video that I make very soon.